based off of what we know from this SolarWinds attack, is there any part about the way that we currently define or conceptualize zero trust that may need to evolve based off of what we've learned and observed from the sophistication of this attack?
Yeah, I think the main thing is that as an industry, well, so I think, again, I think the principles are sound. And I think the need to apply the principles comprehensively has been articulated before, but this is a crisp example of why it's so essential. I think from an industry perspective, it's important to recognize that folks are working, within limitations of budget and time and resources. And that as an industry, I think we need to do a lot better. So for example, Brad called out the need for us to really be much better about sharing data, right? We need, like, if we think about explicitly verifying, bringing in the best possible intelligence, FireEye set a really good example, right? They went out and they said, okay, look, this happened, and here's what we know. We, I think, tried to set that same example. We published literally everything we found. I wrote a paper that was like, here is every single indicator we found in identity systems, so you can go hunting. So I think that that's important. I think that we need to think about how do we help people solve the vendor problem, like the contract administrator for the smaller company that hires somebody to run these services for them. How do you know that their service is being run, acceptably? How do you know that the training they've had is good training? How do you know that their environment is in fact secured? Like, are they using MFA? Like, we need to make it easier as an industry for a company to explicitly verify the dependencies they take. Similarly, on the software side, how do I know whether you used open source that could have been tampered or whether you were using some other mechanism? How do you know whether someone's code security pipeline was properly secured? How do you know what their check-in processes were? And in many cases, the vulnerabilities that were caused in the cases where vendor software was impacted, there were things that, and I could refer you to the congressional testimony, but there were things that were pretty obvious that you would say, well, an auditor would have caught that and not liked it, right? But the idea that part of the normal conversation of, okay, I need a vendor to help me do blah, and there's some standard audit that I can say, okay, they're at level 3 of the FUBAS zero trust, vendor security level, that I can trust that software without me having to do it myself, that I can essentially proxy that out to some trustworthy person to go do that verification. We don't want the verification to simply not happen, which is what was happening here. Vendor and contractor relationships were just not verified. And I think that we could step up as an industry to help, create a better sort of, you know, ISO-like verification model where we can say, look, as a customer, you can trust that this part of the stack is solid, and then you can build on it. If we don't do that, we're basically making it impossible. Because if you can't trust the things you're building on, you can't possibly build everything yourself. Even big software houses like Microsoft, we don't build 100% of the software we use ourselves, right? We do have vendor relationships. Like, we use SolarWinds, for example, at Microsoft. And I think, and so did, most other software vendors. So we have to be in a place where you can use those building blocks, but use them in a way that meets the zero trust principle. And I think that's probably the thing for the industry. Make it easier and make dependencies easier to manage.